Hey guys, welcome back to another video. So today's video, we are going to be talking about a series. For those of you that are new here, welcome. My name is Jaya. I put out videos on bookish related content regularly twice a week. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, then you're definitely in the right place. For those of you that are returning, thank you for being here. Thank you for supporting the channel. And it means the world to me that you tune in to watch these videos and share the love and enjoy the fiction addiction that plagues us all. It's reading time here at JB's Corner. So the series review that I will be talking about today is actually a duology. This is none other than Ava Reid's very, very popular A Study in Drowning and a Theory in Dreaming series. A Study in Drowning actually came out, I want to say 1.5 to 2 years ago, and A Theory in Dreaming actually released earlier this month. So I was very excited to be able to get my hands on both of these, as they are kind of classic to that dark academia vibe. I wouldn't say these are classically dark academia, because in dark academia you're usually dealing with death as part of the genre. These don't necessarily have death or murder in the sense of the literal term, but they do surround that kind of feeling. They do take place in university settings. It does revolve around 2 university students, and it does have to do with the question mark of magic versus reality, and this kind of further delve into the human mind. Both of our characters are flawed. Both of our characters deal with a lot of mental and emotional challenges as they navigate through this series. This setting is also very, how do I put it? There's a component of it that feels almost folky and kind of fantasy adjacent. And then there's a component of it that's definitely set in a very, very harsh real world where you have a very clear dichotomy between rich and poor. And it's also during the time of war. So very, very intense kind of setting and very easy to sink into the world of these books. In this case, both of our flawed characters are basically literature students who absolutely love the written word. We have one girl who is Lyrian, and the other one is half Lyrian and half Argantian, which are the 2 main cities that are also rivalries and at war in the course of these books. I also just want to take a moment to look at how beautiful these books are. Just look at that gorgeous cover. These are the Amazon copies, and I love the fact that it has the painted edges with the shelf. And then A Theory in Dreaming is also equally beautiful. And we have, again, those lovely painted edges. There were also some beautiful quotes in these books. So let me read this one to you, because it really spoke to my heart when I read this quote. It's actually a little passage, and it's on page 302 of A Study in Dreaming. "The only reason anything matters is because it ends," he says. "I wouldn't hold you so tightly now if I thought we could be here forever. That makes me want to cry." She wished he hadn't said it. "I know, it's not the most original argument, and I'm hardly the first scholar to make it, that the ephemerality of things is what gives them meaning. That things are only beautiful because they don't last. Full moons, flowers in bloom, you. But if any of that is evidence, I think it must be true. Some things are constant," Effie said. "They must be. I think that's why so many poets write about the sea. Maybe the idea of constancy is what's actually terrifying. Fear of the sea is fear of the eternal, because how can you win against something so enduring, so vast and so deep? You could write a paper arguing that, at least in the context of Meriden's works. Well, it must have to be an entire thesis. Oh, stop it. You're being so relentlessly you." So very, very high level thinking, very, very poetic language, very, very thought inducing kind of books. They are a little on the darker side though, and they do have quite a few trigger warnings in my humble opinion. It's very apparent that one of our main female lead characters is dealing with depression. There may be a question mark to even say that she may be a little bit schizophrenic, depending on how you view the world. In this story, again, it does breach the world of reality and fantasy, so it's a little unclear to me as to whether or not the fantasy world is meant to be believed as being real, or whether the fantasy world is how our main female lead character is able to deal with the harsh realities of her real life. And it's what allows her to survive in the world that she's had to build for herself. She is a character that has been told repetitively that she is not enough, that she has been rejected by her family, she has been mistreated by them. She suffers from extreme self-esteem issues. She is a beautiful girl and knows that she is a beautiful girl, but it oftentimes has gotten her into trouble. She has dealt with very inappropriate behavior from people in power who have misused their powers against her. So if that is something that is going to be a trigger mark, just know that that is there. Definitely an adult taking advantage of a younger individual is in this book. We also see like obsessive tendencies with one of the male lead characters with her. We see a lot of her depression through the course of this book, her confusion as to what's real and what's not real, her inability to trust herself. So you do have a little bit of that unreliable narration that's happening in this book, and this fantasy world that has been created. Essentially, the idea is that in Lyria, the people believe that there is magic that sustains their country. And the division between the North and the South within the country itself is oftentimes that folklore and that belief in the folklore. So people who come from lower denominations or economic backgrounds are oftentimes more rooted in their belief of the folklore. And then the Northerners who have a little bit more money and are kind of central to the economy flourishing, they're the ones who kind of set the rules and the tones and can afford to go to high-level universities and such things. They are the ones that understand the folklore and have an appreciation for it, but don't necessarily fall into it and believe into it 100%. So that's the divide within the country itself. So our main female character, Effie, she's basically a student in the architectural college. And while she's there, she is very smart. She's very intelligent, very capable, and she really wants to be a literature student. And literature in Lyrian culture is one of the most important things, because it is the literature, it is the folklore, it is the stories and the fables that help keep the nation uplifted and what brings them a sense of hope and belief and allows them to believe in magic. So literature is very much appreciated, and it is very much celebrated. But the university has not ever had a female literature student. So Effie, even though she passed all her courses with flying colors, she's unfortunately in the architectural college. Now, during the course of her time there, she finds out that there is a chance for her to go work on the property that her favorite author used to live in. His name is Mirrodin, and he's believed to have written this title called Ungarid. And Ungarid is the folklore story that Effie holds on to extremely tightly because it is deep to her soul. Now, when she comes across an opportunity for her to potentially design this house that Mirrodin lived in order to reestablish the estate and bring it back to its origin, she jumps at the chance because she wants to go see this world that Mirrodin himself lived in. She wants to escape from the university where she has been labeled very terrible words after her master of the college of her department basically made untoward moves on her and then essentially blamed her for it. And so the college believes that she brought it upon herself, even though she was the one who was in a position of lack of power. She just wants to escape and she just wants to rethink her life. So she essentially takes on this project and ends up going to the southern part of the country, which is believed to be undergoing a period of drowning, similar to what we would say Venice is going through now with just the seawater levels rising. So there's a concern that this state may completely crumble into the water. And so Effie is there to reestablish this estate. Now, when she gets there, she happens to upon Preston Hillary, who is our male main character. He's half Lyrian, half Argantian. So he's kind of stuck in terms of his appreciation with the college. He's also the favored student of the master of the literature college, and he has been sent to the Meridian estate in order to prove that the late author's works are actually not real and are not worth being celebrated, and that Mirrodin did not deserve to be preserved in the Sleeper Museum, which is the central museum in Lyria that basically is what holds all of the beliefs, the folklore, and the belief that these sleepers will eventually wake up, and with them will come a tide of magic that will help Lyria attain its prosperous status. So he's there basically trying to disprove all this in a time of war when he's already stuck in the middle as being half Lyrian and half Argantian, while being the favored student at the college and having never really dealt with any prejudice before. And Effie, who is a female who has been shown in multiple occasions that she's worthless, that she's not enough, and she's nothing more than a pretty face, ends up here having to work with him. The two of them eventually come to an understanding with one another and work together in order to figure out what is true and what is not true. Effie reluctantly agrees because she really wants to disprove that Mirrodin is a fraud, and Hilary is obviously hoping to prove that he is a fraud, but they figure by working together they'll have a little bit more validity to what they're saying. And Preston is also a fresh breath of air for Effie because he's the first man that she's met that's actually telling her that her thought process, her thinking, her ability to understand literature is beautiful, and that she's extremely intelligent and very capable. So she also feels a certain level of confidence working with him that she doesn't normally find on her own. And so together they embark on this. Now, the component of this that's kind of fantastical or mythical in a way is that there is a story that says, a legend that says, that there is a fairy king. And this fairy king is very beautiful and ethereal, but he's also dark, and at the core of his being he's an evil creature, and he basically likes to steal away the women that he claims as his own. Now Effie believes that there is a claim that he has upon her, and so she is constantly in fear that the fairy king is after her. So any cruel behavior that a male shows towards her, she associates it with the fairy king, and she's under the impression that the master of the house to which she has gone in order to build these architectural blueprints slowly is being overtaken by the fairy king. There are moments when that main character is presented as being very reasonable and very kind, and other moments where he almost becomes possessive, aggressive, rude, and they're unable to explain why this is happening. There's also this idea that there's a ghost running around the house, and the lady of the house has been missing ever since the main author passed away. And it's only the son, Ionto, who is basically showing them around the house. Now, over the course of the story, we are led to believe that Ionto may be possessed by the fairy king, and Effie and Preston have to work around this. Preston, being a non-believer, is only focused on the facts, and Effie is trying to decipher between the real world and this fairy tale world that has been created as she continues to find her confidence and her sense of empowerment. And throughout the course of the book, we discovered various aspects of history that lead us to understand who the true author of Ungarid was. And also we watch Effie, a female character who has always been belittled, kind of slowly discover a spine for herself, and we see a very enemies to lovers romance that slowly kindles between Preston and Effie. This book is very beautiful in the way that it's written. The language is very beautiful. It is a very dark book in the sense that the setting, I mean, you're surrounded in a cold country, seaside, where the water is dark and scary and turbulent, not like a summer beach. And it's consistently cold and chilly, and the water is just dripping and everything. If anyone has read Mexican Gothic, that is the vibes I got from this. It's like very Gothic feel to this house, Victorian Gothic, like old school dark vibes. I think this book would be great for a fall read or a winter read. Like, that's definitely the vibes I got from this book. And it definitely has that dark academia feel to it because of the fact that it is discussing, you know, educational prose and thesis and things like this that they're working on, that mystery element, and this idea of, you know, darkness, human darkness coming out to play, and this question of like mental illness and the different shapes it can take, and this disillusion between supernatural and natural. All of those things are blended in here, so it's definitely dark academia adjacent, and I do think it's a beautiful tale. It was just a little heavy for me, so I do feel like this book was a little slow for me. It took me a while to get through this book. Now, this book is a book that I chose to physically read the entire time. I did not do Audible at all for this book, and so maybe that's a part of it. Maybe I feel like this might actually do better with an audio, whether that's a soundtrack or whether that's actually listening to the audiobook to sink into the world better, lighting a fall candle. This is definitely an ambiance book. That's what I would say about this book. But overall, I really enjoyed Ava Reid's story. I really enjoyed the prose. I really enjoyed the feelings and the emotions that the book brought out of me. And while all those emotions were not necessarily positive emotions, and while there were many, many, many situations where our main female lead character really frustrated me, I think she's a very powerful character to read, because I do think a lot of us go through these emotional struggles, and it is difficult sometimes to believe in ourselves and to stand up for ourselves. And I think her behavior was what I would anticipate for someone going through severe depression. So I think this was overall a very interesting and fun book to read. I ended up giving this book a 3.5 stars, just because, again, the mood was a little down for me, but I do think that it is a beautiful story, and I think maybe it was just a little too hot outside for me to be reading this book, because it's August and it's hot, hot, hot. But I think if I'd picked it up maybe around October or November, it would have been the perfect read. A Theory in Dreaming, on the flip side, is taking up the aftermath of what happens in A Study in Drowning. So basically, these two have come back to their college town. They're back in the university. Effie is now being given the opportunity to become a literature student. Her dream has been met. Her tormentor, the previous professor that did terrible, terrible things, has been expelled from his position. And she finally feels like she has her feet underneath her when all the reporters come looking and barking up the tree, basically saying that Preston, who is, again, half Argont and half Lyrian, is actually a traitor, and that he's just demoralizing the folklore and the mythology in order to ruin the chances of the war effort's success and demoralize the Lyrian out front. And Effie is kind of being told that she's nothing more essentially than a harlot who's kind of wormed her way into the literature college, and she doesn't deserve to be there. And she's, again, oftentimes very mistreated by both the professors and the men there. Oftentimes told that she's not intelligent enough or capable enough. She is put through small humiliations that definitely take a toll on her. And both she and Preston are kind of dealing with their own difficulties within the college that they kind of keep away from each other, which I do think that miscommunication aspect of the trope really did bother me. But through the course of this, we kind of see both of them unraveling as they try to hold on to their grip of the real world and their love for each other. That was a very strong theme in this book, is the love they have for one another, as well as the overwhelming pressure they feel from that love and that fear that they're going to be a burden towards one another. I think this book is very emotional. It's very touching, a lot more trigger heavy. I think we see a lot more of that depression rear up in Effie. We see a lot of defeatist behavior in her. And I don't think it's because she's weak. I think it's just that she's truly struggling. It's set in a very cold town. There's snow and there's ice everywhere, and it's dark, and people are putting up posters of her, basically accusing her of, spreading lies that led to her professor being let go of. And there's Preston is being dragged along by his master professor to basically be told that he has to participate in a study which may or may not be against his will, in order to further determine whether or not Lyrian heritage is real. And his benefactor, Master Ghost, who's the one who's also having him come on these crazy dream treks with him, and studies into the sleeper museum that's basically the foundation of Lyria, also leaves him to kind of fight his own battles. He also shows his faith in Preston by extending him the opportunity to become the selected elite student, kind of like a prefect in Harry Potter. But the problem is this puts a further target on his back. The war efforts going on between Lyria and Argont are also at an all-time heavy, and they do take a forefront in the novel in this book. And the thing is, you see a lot of hatred from the other aristocratic Lyrian students towards Preston, which he's trying to shoulder and hide from Effie. And then eventually we just see the depression kind of catching up with both of them. I do think the fantastical aspects of this book were a lot more fun, with the dream world and the magic that's there and the bells that are tolling and the beautiful marble statues. It kind of reminds me of like what I would expect, like the Greek, old Greek architecture would have looked like, kind of. And I do think it was really beautiful. It's just, again, this one was very, very dark. I think it's a great book for the winter. I just think during the summer, it did bring me down a little bit. I also found this book to be a little bit harsher. I'm trying not to give too many details away in this book or really even share too much about the premises of this book, but it truly is following the aftermath of what happened in A Study in Drowning. I will say both books end on a positive note, and I do think the last 50 pages of both books are quite beautiful. And overall, the relationship between these two characters as they develop is just so beautiful to read. It very much reminds me of reading Rebecca Ross's I will think of the book. There are these books right here, so I'm just going to grab them. Divine Rivals. It reminds me a lot of Divine Rivals. Like, that's the feeling, that's the vibe of these books as well. And in the same way that I think Divine Rivals was an excellent series to read during the fall winter time, I think these would be perfect for that too. I just wish I had picked these books up in December, because I think that would have changed my feelings on them. Because A Theory in Dreaming was so heavy for me, and because there are things that happen in this book that just genuinely made me want to cry and like fall apart on my own, just wishing I can hold this girl in my arms and tell her things were going to be okay and that she's enough. And the sheer amount of anger I felt on behalf of both of them because of the amount of bigotry and hatred and racism and all these other things that they face, I ended up giving this book a 3. It was just a lot for me emotionally. But I do think the author wrote a phenomenal book. And if you're okay with it being a darker read and you're open to reading it in the fall, I think these are great books to pick up. And that brings me to the conclusion of this video. I hope that this guy gave you a little bit of a view into this magical world that Ava Reid has created with A Study in Drowning and A Theory in Dreaming. Both of these books are absolutely lovely. Both of these books were physical copy reads for me, because how do you not pick up this physical book and read it? Like, the idea of listening to an audio when I had these beautiful books available to me to read, I couldn't do it. So I ended up physically reading both of these books, and that could be why it hit me a little bit harder and maybe took me a little bit longer to get through them. And I did find the pacing a little bit slow, but I do think overall the stories are actually quite beautiful the more I've had time to kind of ruminate on it and think about it, and I would definitely recommend it. For those of you that are new here, if you enjoy this video, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on any other videos. I put out videos every Monday and Wednesday on bookish related content, and sometimes some randomness here and there, unboxings, travels, things like that. But for the most part, we talk all things books. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being here. It means the absolute world to me to have your support as I continue down this adventure of one of my favorite hobbies of all time, which is, of course, reading and really delving into the world of fiction in particular. I do tend more towards that genre, as you guys know. I just think there's so much to be learned from reading, and there's so much an author can say. And it really allows us to expand the way we think and the way we feel. And I just think there's so much to be offered in books. And I just think the book community in general is so phenomenal. So once again, can't thank you enough. To all of you that watched this video today, I just wanted to say thank you once again. And I hope wherever you are, whether it's morning, evening, or night, that you guys are safe, that you guys are feeling loved and secure, and that all of your loved ones are with you as well, cherishing the moments you have together, because at the end of the day, what more can we possibly want? And that being said, I will catch you guys on the flip side with the next video. I hope you have a wonderful day wherever you are. Bye, guys.